guys, thanks for joining me today. So recently over on my Instagram I had been asking people to send me in questions for a Ask Me Anything video. So I have a bunch of questions to answer for you guys today. And I will start from the top. So a lot of them were kind of similar and similarly phrased questions, so I will just group them all together. The first thing is, who taught you to sew and at what age? So I very much learnt through trial and error. My mum had always had sewing machines around. She'd learned to sew when she was at school as well. So I had grown up like seeing her like use it every now and then. And she got really back into sewing when I was a teenager. And at that point I would just kind of like go and sneak in and just play with her sewing machines without her knowing. So I was never kind of actually taught how to sew properly as such. It took me a long time to actually be able to make a garment for like finished properly. And yeah, it's only in the last say 5 years or so that I've been really confident in what I've been able to make and being able to wear them out, etc, etc. So people have asked if I've taken sewing classes. So the only sewing classes I've taken have been for specific things. So I took a lingerie class in Morley College a few years ago. So that was to teach you how to do things like bras, knickers. It was a term of evening classes, so once a week. And it was really, really good. I'll definitely recommend it. A lot of these adult education centres, especially if you're in big cities, are really good for that kind of thing. So I learned like a whole new kind of skill set working with and like different techniques and things using things like lots of elastics and lace and all of that kind of stuff too. I did have a really good teacher, so we'd cover like far beyond what the syllabus had said you'd cover. So we did swimwear and all sorts as well, and literally it was amazing. Like still even now, like all my knowledge of sewing things like a lot of stretch elastics, lace, all of that comes from that class too. I did a corset class there as well. That was a weekend class, and I've done a jeans making workshop at the New Craft House, which was less of a necessity, more of a let's use this as an excuse to hang out with Heather over the weekend. But yeah, still really good. So I still learned a lot about fitting and stuff. So things like fitting in particular is always more handy if you've got someone else there who knows what they're doing and can like assess things on you. So that's always helpful. So someone's asked, how did you learn to adjust patterns? So I actually learned to draft patterns before I learned to use any actual sewing patterns, which is a very odd way of learning in this day and age, I think. Again, this is all from my lovely mother, who had, when I really got into, well, I got really into sewing the year that she took the 3-week summer school class at the London College of Fashion to learn how to draft. And when she got back from that class, she had all of these books and information, and she had made me a basic block. Well, not that she'd made me a basic block. The basic block that came with the class just happened to fit me. It was like a standard size, and I just happened to be that size at the time. I'm not that size anymore, unsurprisingly. So with all of that and all of the information that came with it, she taught me some basics, or like went through some basics with me in terms of things like slashing, spreading, moving darts, etc, etc. And then from there it was a trial and error, learn as you go kind of thing. And I loved it. I really threw myself into it. I would spend hours and days just like drafting patterns which would never get used, but you know, playing around just with paper and like crap fabric and things like that. And it's just a lot of practice with that. So I mean, my lack of fear with hacking definitely comes from that. It's knowing that, you know, if you're adding volume or adding extra fabric or width and stuff in certain areas, or taking that away, and what effect that's going to have on it. And there's also that underlying thing that it's only fabric, nothing terrible is going to happen with it at the end of the day. You'll lose perhaps a little bit of money, and ideally you'd be starting out with just some cheap fabric to start off with, but no one's going to die by the end of it. Okay, so I was very much a let's jump head in, see what happens. I would say the first 5-6 years of me making stuff completely unwearable, okay? And so don't think that this happened like overnight. This was many years of trial and error to get to this point. Okay, so next, okay, So there's a few people that wanted some tips on sewing, particularly with zips. So I don't think my zip insertion's that great. I've recently figured out a way of putting in invisible zips that I really like, just in terms of getting a bit closer to the feet, and that is to firstly open up the invisible zip and then just really gently press it so that it's a bit flatter when it goes under your foot. And I have, instead of using the kind of the middle of alignment of the needle, is to move it one step over towards the to the teeth, and that I've recently found has given me a really neat zip. I don't think that I put in zips particularly well. I don't I don't pretend to. I do things well enough that it works. Functionality, most important thing. I'm that person that will have like something very slightly off at the bottom, but I will just hand stitch it, press it and steam it, and it's absolutely fine, and I'm okay with that. If you're a real perfectionist, don't follow me in terms of construction, because I'm not that person. I'm very much a done is better than perfect. Okay, someone's asked how to reduce a volume in a circle skirt pattern. So I did have a little think about this, and there are two ways that you can do that. One is to just measure the diameter of your waist for that circle skirt. So if in either the pattern that you already have, or if you're adding it to a bodice, like the waistline on that bodice. And there are many circle skirt generators online. You can use, there's one on By Hand London that I know of, and then I think there are others. And you can just put in your measurements, i.e. how long you want the skirt to be, what the waist is meant to be as well, number of seams, and put in that you want either a 3/4 skirt or a half circle skirt, and they will just adapt that to what you want. Alternatively, if you want to use a pattern that you already have, what I'm going to do is just draw out what I would recommend for you to do. So your skirt pattern would look a bit like this for a full circle skirt, and you would then basically make 4 of these. You'd cut that one side on the fold and vice versa, one for the front, one for the back. And essentially you want to just then cut out wedges on that in order to get rid of some of that volume. So, and then getting rid of something like this. And the best way to do that, hopefully you get it from what I'm showing you here, is with your pattern, that looks like a big quarter of a circle, is to cut several lines through it. So you could just do it in 2 like I've done here, but if you do it more, it'll make a much smoother pattern at the end of it. So say you do like 4 lines through it, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and you cut all the way down. Or if you don't want to cut it, what you can do is fold it and then pinch out the excess, and then take out as much as you want to in each of them. And then what you'd still do is still cut that on the fold, but it'll be more of a 3/4 skirt or less than that, depending on how much you've taken out. You can take out as much or as little as you want to. What that does is keep your waist measurement the same. And that essentially is what slashing and spreading or removal of volume is like. I hope whoever wanted to know that watches that. Okay, so next thing, biggest sewing mess ups. I am really good at compartmentalizing problems. There are a few UFOs down in my sewing room or dungeon, and from whoever's point of view it is. And there are lots of things that I've done that haven't worked out how I've intended to. I wouldn't necessarily call them like big kind of fails or mess ups, more of a kind of things in the path to learning, if that makes sense. I wouldn't say that there's anything that sticks in my head as being really awful. Going back to what someone else has asked, I mean, I did struggle a lot with the wedding dress that I made, in that the fabric choice that I had made and things like that didn't help matters, but I got through it, and you're still happy with the end result, but and that, not quite a mess up, but not quite what I wanted it to be either. Okay, so what are basic supplies a beginner should invest in and get started? So the first thing I'll talk about is a machine. So set yourself a budget of what you can reasonably afford. I would always try to go for as good a machine as you can get, obviously. You can often find that you'll have, you know, your mum, aunts, family, friends might have machines in the attics that no one's using. And if you're able to, get something like that. Look on FreeCycle, look on Gumtree for, you know, good deals, people giving them away for free. Older machines still work really well, and they're often built better than newer ones as well, especially if you get some really old, really good old ones. And that's a really good way to start as well. So bear in mind, like, I didn't buy my own machine until 5 years ago. I'd always been using my mum's machine, so that's one thing that I hadn't even needed to invest in. You need to get decent scissors. You don't need to get expensive ones, but you need to get decent scissors and have like fabric scissors, have paper scissors. Get decent pins. Try not to get the ones with the plastic heads. Either get stainless steel ones or glass ones, because it means you can iron over them. Get a good fabric marker. And I would recommend a washable fabric pen. I think that chalk is great, but it can be harder to use. I'm a massive convert for those like kind of felt tip markers nowadays. Measuring tape, an accurate one. Apart from that, you can probably get away without a lot of things. You need accessories for your machine, so machine feet to do like zips and things, but even that, you just need to have like a regular zipper foot, and one invisible zipper foot is the ideal. But other than that, you don't need that much to get started, I don't think. You will find that there are lots of tools to make your life easier. So if you find that you love it and you're doing it all the time, there are lots of great things out there to purchase, but definitely not a necessity to start off with. I would say start off with as minimal as you can do. See if you like it. You'll be able to tell pretty quickly whether you do or not. Okay, so people are always asking me, how do I get so much sewing done? I do a lot. So I always say it's because I live for myself and I don't own a TV, which is a lie because I do own a TV now, I just don't watch it very much. I really love to sew, unsurprisingly, right? So after I get back from work around 6, you know, I'll have dinner, and I can often sew straight away until 11, 12, 1 sometimes. I sleep late. I'm a bit of a night owl. So yeah, and I can do that most weekdays. I don't sew at the weekends. I tend to be with friends and family, and my days off as well. I tend not to be doing too much, or not be doing, you know, stuff like this, shooting some vlogs. So yeah, my sewing is very much done in those evening times. I do sew reasonably fast. I'm not someone who's going to be there pinning everything 1,000 times and being really neat and careful, so that does save a bit of time as well. Okay, so next, things about motivation and how do you find time, how do you plan things and stay motivated. I love fashion. I am someone who will kind of twice a year when the runway shows are on, I'll go through all the runway shows, see what I like. I will still browse shops, either in person or online. I use Pinterest a lot. Instagram, of course, is a huge source of inspiration as well. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not always motivated to sew all the time, but when I am, I can be prolific with quantity. And it's one of those tricky things. I'm also a huge list maker, so every season I'll write out like loads of stuff that I'm kind of interested in making, you know, pairing together patterns and fabric that I have or ideas that I have. and writing them all down so that I can see, so that I don't forget things, and also so that, you know, I can be like, oh, is this working? And actually this season I've managed to tick off quite a bit on my list, so I'm quite pleased with myself with that. But it can be difficult, and I never want to say like don't get down if you don't feel motivated to sew. It will kind of come and go. You'll get struck by inspiration one day and it will come to you and you'll be like, oh, it feels amazing. You'll make something that will look wonderful and everything will be back again. Personally, I know that when I'm not motivated to sew, it'll be because, you know, I'm super down about something else as well, and stressed about other things, and I will be visibly blue, you know. I am happiest when I've got a project or 5 on the go. Okay. What are my top 3 favourite patterns and makes? So, favourite make ever will always be my bridesmaid's dress. I say always. It's currently my velvet bridesmaid's dress. I'm constantly looking for an excuse to wear it all the time. I think I was just really happy. It turned out exactly like I thought it would in my head, which sometimes happens and sometimes doesn't. So when it does, it's great. In terms of favourite patterns, if you haven't figured it out already, the Fibre Mood Myra dress is a huge favourite of mine. It's such a simple pattern. I've used it, like 4 or 5 times already, which is a lot for me because I'm not usually someone who reuses multiple patterns. I'm very much a let's move on to the next thing usually. But it is something that I've used a lot. Just trying to think what else I like. I mean, in terms of things like, I'll have favourites for specific things. So like my favourite jeans pattern is my Closet Case ginger jeans. I've made them 3 times. I'll probably still make more because I've still got some good stretch denim in my stash somewhere. Things like, what else do I like making? You know, things like Tilly and the Butterflies Freya top, which is a great staple as well. So yeah, there's loads of good patterns, loads of good makes that, and I'm generally kind of like, I like what I make for the most part. Every now and then I have a big wardrobe clear out and I'll be like, oh, what was I thinking when I made that? But for the most part, I quite like what I do. Hey, so someone's asked if I've got any tips on sewing with silk velvet. So this is the fabric that I use for that bridesmaid's dress and for the wedding dress, and it is horrible to work with. I can't even lie, like I almost cried and I was swearing a lot and, you know, ready to kind of ball things up and throw it in the bin. I pushed through, but it was tough going. This is a difficult fabric to work with. It shifts like crazy. Yeah, you just need to be patient, take your time, use loads of pins, make sure you go through your machine, you sew things just really slowly on your machine, use a walking foot if you can do. But yeah, I will just send you lots of luck and hugs. And I think that's it. So thank you guys for sending in your questions. Hopefully I've answered them to your satisfaction. I might do this again sometime in the future, who knows. But thank you for joining me today. Bye guys.